Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Balance Bureau. Today we have a special guest, Josh, and he is a bridge builder, a leader forged through fire and guided by faith. As the founder of the coaching and EOS implementer, he empowers individuals and organizations to align vision with execution, transforming struggles into stepping stones toward fulfillment. With firsthand experience in building and exiting three successful businesses, Josh brings a unique perspective on creating sustainable value, long term impact. Through his masterminds and mentorship, he inspires others to embrace their calling, overcome adversity, and build legacies rooted in authenticity, resilience, and generosity of spirit. Passionate about men's mental health and personal growth, Josh helps others transform pain into purpose, guiding them to lead their lives of meaning and significance. So go ahead, Josh.
Well, thank you for having me, Lindsay. And it's a good introduction. Kairos is a new word for a lot of people. So I'll first give the definition of that and clue people in on how I came to that as a business title and then eventually to a book title. So it has two different definitions that are actually similar. One comes from the ancient Greeks, and they define it by a moment or era, a time period or a moment in history. And it also is biblical, and that's a divine time when God acts. So typically, the only people that I run into that know the word Kairos were in a Lutheran church, and they went to a Kairos camp when they were a teenager. And then everyone else is like, hey, what the heck does that mean? But for me, in 2021, when I founded Kairos Coaching, we were just coming out of like the thick of COVID, and we are attached to these Zoom screens and our home traps in our homes and all this stuff. And I actually bought a retreat, a farm, 80 acres, to host leadership retreats and camps to break people free from those Zoom screens and trapped in their homes so they could come out there, tap inward, work on themselves in a multitude of areas, and go back to their homes, back to their businesses as better human beings. So for me, like Kairos meant like the moment is now, that we reclaim our lives, reclaim our purpose, and go back out to the world and live that purpose in the service of others.
That's incredible. With the retreats and almost coming, it was like a bridge. So it was like coming off the Zoom, going into your moment to unplug and reconnect with who you are. And then did you notice any shift of going back to the online space and then feeling called to go into a retreat mode again?
I try to get in retreat mode as often as possible. So I go out, I don't actually live on the property. Everyone that comes out there is like, how the heck don't you live here? And I'm like, you try getting four young kids to clean up for events or anything like that. And then they understand. But I go out there every day. That's where I work. And it's about 25 minutes from my house. And so I get to retreat daily. And my goal is to have as many people out there as possible for them to live, to even build events or visions without me. Like we hosted six weddings this year, charitable events. We had a couple political events last year during the elections, cycle, because we have a large horse arena that's 12,000 square feet, and some people wanted to use it for political fundraisers. I was like, cool. And it was so any vision that people want, we'll put that together and allow them to use the space because again, we just are in these in office environments, Zoom screen environments that are kind of sucking the soul out of ourselves.
Yeah, and offering that space to, I love how you said retreat daily. And for those who may be too far or searching and for some place or something, some idea of how to get to that place, what are some options that you think that they have that they can go retreat daily?
So let me start with this. I teach clarity breaks as a part of my business coaching. And for mine daily, I do rucks. So those aren't familiar for a lot of people. They're becoming more popular. But essentially, I put a backpack on that has 60 pounds in it, and I go out for a walk. And that's my moment with God and in my own head. Now, here's a cool thing. Like, I'm a type A, hard charging entrepreneur. And I like to be productive. So for 2 years on my rucks, I had these AirPods in and I'm listening to a podcast and I'm getting exercise at the same time. So I'm doubly productive, right? And then I had this epiphany that I don't have any quiet time, like at all. Like, having kids, running business, same with me, running two businesses and four kids. I had zero quiet time. So I'm like, I'm going to take these AirPods out of my ears, and that will be my solitude time, time to speak to God, time to speak and work through all any thoughts going on in my head. And it's been such a blessing. So that's one way they could do it, is just finding quiet time, peace for themselves, because God doesn't yell, he whispers. And only when you pause or get yourself still are you going to be able to hear those whispers. But the clarity breaks I teach, I say to my business clients, like, you got to have 1 hour weekly that's just for you. And so my hour when I owned a large financial firm was 10 a.m. on Friday mornings. And I would go to a coffee shop with just a notepad and no cell phone, no laptop. And that was just a little happy place where I could work through any recurring thoughts or negative emotions, or maybe it was some vision planning. And once a week, that was a routine for me. I treated it like the most important meeting of the week. And so for you, that might be a park bench or whatever happy place it is. The rule I have is it can't be at home and it can't be your office, because there's too many distractions at those two places. You need that hour for yourself.
Right. I love that. It's to put it on your calendar to schedule that time with yourself. And I mentioned something about this too a few days ago, is that I used to do things for myself, but it was always attached to something, right? Like I would do this for this reason. So it was for me, yeah, I would go for the mile walk, but I would track it and then screenshot and share for my business, right? But it's like take those headphones out, put the phone down, just go for the walk, right? Just listen to yourself and get in that stillness and allow yourself to get a little bit bored and hear God's words. And that's not boredom at that point, but you need to get yourself comfortable with not hearing anything or not
Mhm.
having something to stay busy or a quick distraction because you get a little too afraid to just sit with yourself too. That's another thing that I've run into with a lot of clients, is that they're nervous to sit with themselves because they're not sure what monsters they may uncover, what self-doubt or limiting beliefs they might have to sit with. Do you have anything that can go into that?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Actually, the hardest person to look in the mirror is yourself.
Yeah.
And to your point, a lot of people do struggle with that. And I just want to give you this encouragement: is you're meant to go through it. If you actually want to rid yourself of the self-doubt, if you actually want to rid yourself of the recurring negative thoughts, negative emotions, the past trauma, the past hurt, the lack, the shame, the guilt, it's for you to sit with and wrestle with and run to God with. Like, God tells us, like I was just teaching my 10-year-old this, is like, he says, worry about nothing, but instead with prayer and petition, give it all to me. And so why aren't we doing that? Why are we holding on to it? Like, there's this weight that a lot of us choose to hold on to because we're scared to confront it. And so I give this example frequently because and I work with a lot of men and I work with some women as well. Uh, but I feel like women are better at talking to other people, like especially having friends where they can share deep stuff. Whereas men, it tends to be like their wife is their only safe space. And if their wife isn't a safe space, then they really have no one. And so it's an interesting dichotomy, and that's why I choose to build masterminds where we get really vulnerable, because I want men to be able to open up around women, around other men, and actually get better and work on this stuff. But the question I ask, so let's say someone had a trauma when they were younger, or they had an abusive verbally or physically or sexually. No, it doesn't matter the abuse. Let's say they learned to not confront that, and that worked for them to save themselves some pain. Now you're an adult and you're not going through that anymore, but you still hide from confrontation. You still, feel insecure around stating, your truth or what you're truly feeling or whatever it may be. And the question I like to ask and get them to recognize is, I understand how that served you as a child. Can you answer for me how that's serving you now? Because we don't often pause to ask ourselves, like, is this actually serving me or is this hurting me? And if we can get to the present point, now we get to ask ourselves the future point. Does this serve my future or does this hurt my future and who I truly want to be in the future? And so it's a big awakening when we can get to that point where we can understand why we are the way we are, like it served us in a younger self, a younger version of ourself, that hurt little Timmy or whatever it may be. But can we get to the point that we figure out that it actually doesn't serve us anymore and it's actually hurting us? Because then we can reorient and get to a better future self.
Yeah, and it's taking out that anxiety of, I don't know who the future me is. And that's like that bridge, right? So it's like, okay, this isn't serving me, but that bridge is sitting with it and hearing it and saying, do you serve me? No, you don't. I've learned from you. Thank you. I'm going to leave you behind. And the anxiety that you feel when you're like, oh, who am I going to become or what's next for me? That's the bridge, is that
Mm.
internal letting yourself get quiet, hear yourself, hear God, hear your intuition. And that's that gap from it's no longer serving me to I'm not afraid of taking on my next step and my new identity or who I'm becoming because I've sat with myself. And that's where the answers lie.
Yeah, and to that point, uh, I'll put coaching clients through a series. Like if they are believers, I'll be like, "Do you know what God thinks about you?" And I'll give them all the verses about what God actually says about you. I'm like, "Read these. How's that make you feel? Like someone loves you that much. Like you may have had an abusive parent or a negligent parent or an absent parent, but this God loves you so much that he would never neglect you and has always been there for you. And no matter what trauma, abuse, or even if you've had a great life, he's never left you. He's been by your side the whole time. So now that you recognize that and how he thinks of you, could you start to think that about yourself? And if you did, how would that change your life?
And replacing those stories that we create about ourselves, those false narratives or just simply a lie that we tell ourselves over and over, and replacing that with those words, it'd be life altering.
It's life altering. Absolutely. Once you can truly get to, wow, someone cares about me that much, and what would it be like if I cared about myself that much, and how much could I serve the people around me even better?
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm noticing as you said that, like the pattern of not allowing yourself that space to retreat, whether it be daily or weekly, and not hearing yourself, and that pattern of it's just building into the negative and not pushing you out of that space. It's like you're just getting yourself in this loop of stuck.
Yeah. Have you heard of Byron Katie's The Work?
I don't think so.
Oh, you got to look it up sometime. So I'm going to butcher the exercise a little bit here, but basically what she's doing is, okay, this is the recurring negative thought that I have. And you say, you kind of build the case of, okay, why I've had that thought. But then she has you replace it and say, what's the opposite of that thought? And obviously, it's something very positive about yourself. And then you build the case of why that could be true. And you actually go, you're not saying that it's more true. You're just building the case that it can be as true. And then she goes through some more steps to get you to replace that negative thought with the positive thought. And she even goes in that there's a stupid little trick that you can do because she'll have you go, well, how does this negative thought make you feel? Well, it makes me feel shitty. It makes me feel, shameful, it makes me, now, what does this positive thought make me feel? Strong, powerful, happy, joyful, whatever. And then she'll even go, okay, well, how about if you remove the sting from the thought and you say, whatever that negative thought is, like, I am not enough, and you sing it in the happy birthday tone. I am not enough. I am not enough. And like you keep doing that, and like you remove the sting from the thought. But basically, the whole exercise, takes probably your first time 10 minutes to do. And then after you get used to it, you actually can do it like this. You're just removing it really quickly and replacing it with the opposite thought.
That is hilarious. I can see myself like walking around my kitchen like singing something like that just to replace it.
Yeah, this was brilliant psychological work that she did. I think it was back in the 70s. But yeah, if anyone that wants to Google The Work by Byron Katie, you'll get a bunch of hits on it.
I'm going to have to add that Google search to the show notes because we all need to go look into that and create a song.
That's right.
That is epic. So far we've talked about how you can retreat and listening to yourself and going even further into some of your work. What else have you built that you really want to share today?
Well, I rebuilt myself that I would like to share. So, prior to 2021 and the farm retreat that I told you guys about, um, I was running a very large financial firm. I had 250 employees. We managed $4 billion in assets. And at the time that I took over, I was 35 years old. So, like from the outside in, like everyone just saw this meteoric rise of a young guy, and everything was hunky dory. He had this beautiful family, and he's in shape. Like he has it all together. And of course, when you're an entrepreneur at any level, like it's never a straight line up. It's like a stock market track record of steps forward, steps backward, all that. But from the outside in, everyone just saw the straight line up. Um, and it was a beautiful run. I was in that industry for 17 years. It really made me into who I am today. Uh, I was having so much fun. I thought that was my purpose. From age 35 to 55, I was just going to build that firm, grow it as big as possible, have as large of an impact as possible. And you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, at 41 in 2021, in the summer of 2021, I was terminated. And we were up 30%. We were growing leaps and bounds, had a great thing going. And it was a complete shock. It like just floored me because and I own the firm, so they had to buy me out. So now I'm in this legal battle of um, negotiating my exit and all this different stuff. So anyone that's gone through a transition of a business, whether it was a happy exit or a sad exit, like mine was, it's like losing a loved one. Like you literally go through the stages of grief, um, because your whole purpose and identity is tied into that. And so I was going through it. But what happened was I had a young leader on my team that was a narcissist and a cancer in the culture, and he sued me for discrimination. It was totally frivolous. It did not I did not discriminate against him. So I have all this, slander against me in very public manner, and the corporate office knew I didn't do it, but they decided to terminate me to get themselves out of the lawsuit and any bad press because it was at like the height of the BLM and DEI stuff. And now being 4 years removed, I understand like it was a business decision for them. But that didn't remove the sting when it happened. Like,
Right.
I was like, what, like, I just, so many questions and so few answers. So going through that summer, the thing that I did very smartly was say, I'm not going to make any rash decisions. I'm going to spend the summer with my kids. Like when else would I have that opportunity? And so I pushed away all phone calls and just spent the summer with the kids. Now at the same time, like I'm deep in, depressive thoughts and the stages of grief and trying to figure out life. But we had a great summer. But as soon as I got them into school, I'm going batty because I'm a purpose-driven type A individual that wants to like do something productive for society. And as I got to the acceptance stage of grief, I'm getting calls recruited by other financial firms, big offers on the table, and I just had a weird pit in my stomach every time I took a meeting, and a lot of prayer and reflection with God that he was basically telling me that I'd accomplished everything I set out to in that industry, and it was time to blaze a different trail. Okay, so what's that? And um, so I did. I put this in my book as well because it was a really useful tool that I use to really start to think about the future. And most people think of T charts with numbers, assets on one side, liabilities on another, pros, cons, whatever it may be. I created something very different in the same form. On the left side of the T chart, I put what did I love about my previous role, business, life, and on the right side, what did I really dislike or even hate? And as I built that list, I then asked a very important question at the bottom. What if I could design a world that I only did the stuff on the left side, the stuff I loved to do and I was great at doing, and either eliminate or mitigate all the stuff on the right side? And so that led me to coaching and speaking. And then my wife very wisely looks at me and says, "Yeah, I don't want you traveling all the time." We have four young kids. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fair." So that's where the what I call the Field of Dreams idea came. You know, if you anyone saw that 80s movie, if you build it, they'll come. And that's where the retreat idea came to mind. And so now I still do some traveling for keynote speaking and a little bit of travel for my business clients, but most of the time they're coming to me or we're running events at the property and it's become a beautiful thing. But man, that was a dark, dark period. And now getting through it and 4 years removed from it, I can also say that it was one of the greatest blessings in my life. Like people often will ask two questions. One is, if you ran into the person that sued you, what would be your reaction? And at this point, I would say I would thank him. Doesn't mean that he wasn't wrong. He was very wrong in what he was doing, and he knew he was wrong. But that led to some great blessings in my life. So two things can be true, right? He was wrong for what he did, and at the same time, my life is better than it ever was. And then the other thing they asked me, like, you know, how did I really get through that period? And it was I can only say that it was God. Like if I didn't like, because my thought or perception was I lost everything, but what I lost was identity because I tied myself to my position. What I lost was, money or salary or not even like the revenue that came from the business, right? But I got the buyout on the back end of that, and then I lost things, right? I didn't lose my family. I didn't lose my health or my life. I'm still, I was 41 at the time. I'm still capable of building anything I wanted to build. So the real things in life, the things that matter, I didn't lose. And so that's where I really came up with the crux of my coaching and what I put in the Kairos code is kind of reprioritizing life and how do we actually do this work life, what I call integration or harmony instead of balance. Because most people think of balance and it sets the wrong tone immediately because we think of 50-50. So I just reframed it to integration or harmony and then gave people a pathway on how to do so. Because I had to learn it the hard way. So I want people to learn it through me instead of having to go through the pain that I went through.
That is an incredible story. Absolutely incredible how you took hurt and turned it into, what do they call it? Pain into purpose?
Yeah, well, so that's a great analogy because a lot of time God's God's purpose for your life is sometimes packaged in pain.
Exactly. And something that I've talked a lot on is it comes from Trent Shelton, but he always says that you don't find your purpose, you are purpose. And when you kind of shift that in your mind of searching for purpose, I'm searching for something to fill me up, or my identity to feel like me again, or I feel so lost because the identity has been taken and I'm still searching, you shift it in your mind and you remember you are purpose.
Mhm.
Therefore, you are no longer out there just searching and just doing X, Y, and Z to fill yourself up or to feel something. And I feel like
I love Trent. I've met him
me
a couple
too.
times. I've heard him speak a couple times in intimate settings. He's amazing.
He is amazing. And that one line I feel has changed a lot in my life too. I constantly felt like I didn't know what my purpose was, or everything that I was doing wasn't right or good enough, or just where I was supposed to be. So hearing that really shifted a lot for me in my life too.
Well, you think about this. I've thought about this a lot. God uniquely designed us, and He designed each one of us differently, very uniquely, very differently. And to that end, I can break it down even further for you. There's about 8 billion people on the planet, and only you have that set of fingerprints. That's how the FBI can find us if we do something wrong. Only you, and 8 billion, right? So that's how unique you are. And therefore, going back to Trent's quote of you are purpose, like you have a purpose on this planet. And it's my belief that it's your job to define or find your purpose, like what you were meant to do. And then the secondary piece of that, and this is the piece a lot of people miss, is it's your responsibility then to give it back to the world. So find your purpose and then give that purpose back to the world in the service of others.
Yep, to be of service. And it's so connected, what everything that you're saying to letting yourself hear yourself
Yeah.
is so intertwined, like, between everything, between you having to experience that grief, which is also another good point too, if we want to circle back to it, is that you can grieve all of those things. It doesn't just have to be a loss of a person, it can be the loss of literally anything, like losing your favorite pen, you could grieve over. It was valid, right? And it's something that a lot of people look over is, why do I feel this way? But really, it's that grief, and the stages of that look so different and unique, again, to everyone. But you wouldn't be able to hear all that if you didn't turn inward once in a while.
There was many nights on my back patio staring out. I had my feet on the fire pit and staring out at the golf course behind me and just lost in thought and prayer. And why did this happen? And God, you must have some big plan for me to put me through this. And all the searching for answers, some of them I'll never find. Some of them I'll never know. And it's coming to acceptance with that.
Yep. Radical acceptance. It's a tricky one to have to practice while you're actively in it, but getting yourself to that point of just, I radically accept this moment, I radically accept myself, and continuing on even when you aren't sure what that looks like.
Yeah, I would just encourage people one step at a time. Because when you're in that mode, like I'll give this example, like I'm an avid reader. This is my first book that I've written. I never thought I'd write a book. I've read over 1,000 personal development or self-development slash leadership books. Um, I couldn't read in that time frame. Like I tried picking up some, look, I had nothing else to do once my kids were in school. I was still negotiating this exit. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to read and grow and couldn't read. My brain was not working. And my wife handed me this book. Like, I don't even know where she found it because I don't think she read it. But it was like it was called like The Next Right Step or The Next Right Thing. And as a Christian author, but I finally was able to get past page one and was starting to look at things. And I was like, okay, what's my next right step? And I kept with my business coach at that time, which was smart based on his recommendation. He kept me focused on, all right, what can you control? Do you need to call your attorney? Do you need to call the corporate office? Do you like, can you work out? Like just focusing on that next right thing, the stuff that I could control because so much was out of my control that I felt helpless. Okay, what didn't I feel helpless in? What can I do that made me feel useful?
Yep. Turning inward again.
Yep.
Another. It just all circles back to listening to yourself and getting back into your zone of control. And it's another easy way to choose, right? There's always that choice. And am I going to look at the external and let that control me, or am I really going to take the reins and place where my control is and focus on what I can actually do in control? It's another big shift that always starts with going inward.
Hmm. It is.
It's like the main theme of this discussion here. It's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, I love it because there's so much work to like. We're never a finished product. Like there'll never be a day where we arrive. And that's why going inward and getting used to being uncomfortable going inward is so useful. I was coaching one of my leadership teams earlier today, and they created this mentor-mentee program, and they wanted to lead by example and ask for criticism about the leaders so that they could find out what they were doing better. And I was like, I like that thought process, except I don't like the word, right? So, because they know that it's going to get turned on them after you guys lead by example. And a lot of people aren't ready to hear criticism or accountability. But
Right.
what if you just changed it to what are my blind spots that are preventing us from helping you as a team, helping you as a person, or helping us move forward as a company? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's such a better way of putting it. Because we all have blind spots and we need to work on those. And we need truth tellers in our life to help us see those so we can get better.
Right. It's such another good point. As we are opening ourselves up to listen to ourselves, also not getting stuck in only listening to ourselves and allowing other people to come into our world and say, hey, I see this where we could build it up better. And that's another thing that really ties into how you overcame that point in your life of building back better.
Yeah. Sometimes we're wrong.
Sometimes.
And so listening to ourselves and only ourselves, that can trap some of those old records you were talking about that continuously play. When a great friend of yours could breathe truth into your life and be like, do you know how amazing you are? Do you know that you've overcome this, 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 and this? And you're like, oh shit, yeah. In fact, I tell people all the time, I was like, if you're alive and breathing today, you are undefeated. Like, do you realize how awesome you are? Every obstacle, every tragedy, everything that's been tossed in your way, you've overcome. You're still here today. You're still alive and kicking. You're still moving yourself forward. You're undefeated. Like, stand tall.
Stand a little taller,
Or stand taller, at least.
at least. That is so epic. I really am interested in diving into your book. Like, I'm excited with everything that you've shared. Like, what is in this book?
Yeah, so I actually tell the story in much more detail of the kind of my rise and then the fall, and at least what I could legally tell about the fall. I would have been far more vulnerable, and I was very vulnerable as it is, but there are some legal things I couldn't say, and that's okay. Everyone will get the point of this story and get it really well, because there's some great lessons in there. I've learned a ton about narcissists and having to deal with a very big narcissist in my life. I can now interview for narcissists and teach my business owners how to interview because they can create a huge cancer in your culture. So I give a lot of game on my rise and my fall. And then I get into the coaching curriculum and I'll tee it up like this. So the moment I was terminated, I walked out of the Marriott lobby and my email shut off immediately. I don't even know how they do it that fast. And I can't go back to the offices that I owned the leases on, which is crazy. Um, and so I can't get any of my stuff. Like I can't go talk to any of the people, whatever. They already had my replacement there. And it's a crazy story. But it was like a movie, honestly, Lindsay. It was like living out a movie. There were security guards in the Marriott lobby in case I became a problem. Um, I'm a pretty fit guy, and the guy that terminated me is really not. He's a little guy, so I have a feeling that That was probably why. But anyhow, I digress. So my point in telling this story is that movers sent boxes to my house, all my stuff. And I couldn't open the boxes at all. Like I wasn't emotionally there to open the boxes and even see any of the stuff. So they went down my basement and sat for like a month. And then one day I got the courage to open those boxes. And I'm going through all this stuff, trophies, accolades, designations that I had earned. And I had the epiphany that none of it mattered. Like it was all just stuff, stuff that made me seem credible or esteemed or whatever it may be, but it was just stuff. Like if I had died today, my wife would have stuff to deal with or collect dust on the shelves. And sure, my kids might have been proud that dad was successful, but it was just stuff. And no U-Hauls are following hearses, so I can't take any of it with me. Um, and I realized that I screwed some things up. I screwed the priorities up. So as we're thinking about this work-life integration, I had these questions pop to my head, like, was I chasing God like I was my goals, as strongly as I was my goals? Like, was I pursuing my wife as much as I was accolades? Was I devoting enough time or as much time to my kids as I was my work schedule? And the hard realization was the answer was no to all of those questions. And so I screwed up my priorities. And I think a lot of us do. And we put it, for us men, we put it under the guise of provider, right? We provide. God tells us to provide and protect. And so we wear that like a badge of honor. But God also says a lot of other things that not contradictory, but talking about loving and treating our family and making them a priority. So I started going through like how I did goal setting, and I'm like, well, all right, if I'm not right with God, nothing else in my life is right. So that has to be bridge one. So I named my farm Five Bridges Farm, and I have a whole methodology around that. So bridge one is spiritual. Now, you may not believe what Lindsay and I believe, and that's totally fine. But I bet you've been to a funeral or a wake and you've seen that the body is present and the spirit is gone. So you got to know that we're spiritual beings. So whatever you believe, spiritual comes first. And if I do that right, I also got to focus on me because if I'm not right as a human, I can't give the best of myself to others. And so bridge two had to be internal. I mean, that's your mental, your emotional, and your physical well-being, like being mentally and physically and emotionally strong. Just like anytime we jump on an airplane, the flight attendant tells us to put on an oxygen mask first before assisting others, because we're no use to others if we're passed out or dead. And so that internal bridge, a lot of people skip because they think is either it's selfish or they don't have time. And I got to tell you that you're wrong. And so you cannot be your best for your employees, for your family, or for anyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's bridge two. Bridge three is relationships. If I didn't have my family still with me, I truly wouldn't have had anything. And I truly wouldn't be in front of you today because that's how dark my mind was at that time. And so we must prioritize our most cherished relationships. They cannot get our leftovers. And so my relationship order there is God first, yourself second, just like the first two bridges indicate. Then your wife, if you or spouse, if you have one, kids, if you have them, and then everyone else. Too often, the entrepreneurs that I'm working with are prioritizing everyone else, their employees, and everything else above their family. And that's why they're on their third marriage or estranged relationships with their kids or whatever it may be. And I don't want them to screw up the order because your employees likely aren't going to be around you at your deathbed, but hopefully your family is. And so relationships are the fruit of life. That has to be bridge three. And then we get to bridge four, which is the bridge everyone skips to, which is our environment, our professional, our financial lives. And it's not only our fault, it's a societal conditioning that we fall under. And I have a lot of thoughts about our history in America and how that came to be. But the bottom line is like we've all asked our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then that gets perpetuated in high school with what are you going to go to college for? And then in college they go, what are you going to use your degree? Or how are what are you going to do with that degree? And it's always about the what and not the who. And the who's the more important question. Like, who do you want to be when you grow up? And how do you want to impact the world? And so we get trapped in this, like, well, I'm just going to do this profession. And I got to tell you a really sickening stat. 95% of the population works in a job that they're kind of good at, but they really don't like. 95%. And that's why you see so many miserable people walking around the face of the earth. They're doing it for a paycheck and they never stop to ask themselves, what am I great at and what do I love? And how do I find a job or build a career or build a business that does that? And so we spend so much of our life in a job or working that we should love it and we should be great at it. And so I just want to shift the perspective there. So I want people to still massively win and be great at whatever they do. I just don't want them to screw up the first three bridges. And then if we get the first four bridges right, then we get to move to bridge five, which is legacy. And legacy, there's two things people get wrong with it. One is they think they have time. And we all know that we could be struck down today or get in a car accident on our way home, and it would be really sad and really untimely, but we just don't know. We know it could happen. We just don't think it's going to. And so we think we have time, and legacy is like 30 years from now. But so the reality is that you're building your legacy every single day you have breath in your lungs. Every action you take or action you don't take, and every interaction you have with another human being, you're leaving your legacy. And so the second thing people get wrong about legacy is they think that it's about the things they leave behind. And again, as I was talking about those boxes, it's just stuff. And sure, it may create a great memory. However, what's more important is what you leave in others. And so that's the legacy that you want to leave is what legacy do I want to leave in others? How do I want to make others' lives better, easier, whatever your goal is? And that's what you should be thinking about with legacy. So those are the five bridges. So I like part one of the book is Rise and Fall, and part two is the five bridges methodology.
That's incredible. I can't wait to go get a copy, like, in a minute. The way that you have set up the bridge is not only in order, but it also takes you to that destination piece that we were kind of mentioning earlier. But it's in the destination as the journey. So
Yeah.
it's not like you arrive into your legacy. That is the bridge. That is the step. That is your direction. And I love the way that you put that because it's so easy to get caught up in hustle and forget about your family. I literally just shared that in my last episode. It's easy to, because I did that, right? I had the priority of, oh, well, I'm hustling in my business, and then I'd get out of the office and like the kids are just sitting. So it's so easy to just focus on that destination and your legacy, but without all of the other bridges in order, not missing it, what's the point?
Right.
So
And
the way that,
so,
yeah, the
yeah,
way that you laid that out is just phenomenal to me. It's like mind blowing. I
that's how
can't.
we get the work-life integration or harmony. And now I've actually, I got to write a second book, I think, because I've kind of switched that to maximization. It's like, how do we maximize all areas of our life instead of just thinking of them in isolation?
Right.
Because integration and harmony is great. It's far, far better than the balance terminology. But like, I'm a maximizer. Like, I want to maximize my body, my mind, my relationships, all of it, and my business. I want to maximize. Like, how do I go about doing that? So I've been leaning more into that methodology and trying to get the most out of it. Like I want to, like I think about it like squeezing an orange. Like I literally want to squeeze every drop of juice out of the orange of life.
Yes. I that is just like so exciting. So, okay, gentle nudge for second book.
I'm gonna sell it. Like this has only been out 2 months. We hit number one bestseller on a bunch of different categories, and I'm super humbled by that. And people have already asked me for, are you gonna write another one? I was like, can I just like enjoy this first one first, and then I'll definitely get to the next one.
Obviously not. Like we all need a little bit more. Didn't
I'll
even
get
read the
to it.
book yet. I already need book two. Well, we're trying to maximize what we're learning from you, right? And not let all of that fall into isolated sections. So, what is like your key takeaway then to start incorporating a little bit more of that on your term balance? Before you answer though, I'm giggling every time you say balance because I am the balanced bureau. And the reason why I chose, I literally have hated, if I can use that word, the word balance for so long because it is such a myth and it's sold to us in such a slimy, grimy way that again we're all chasing. So I purposely chose that as my business name to completely redefine what balance means for everyone, right? And it's not 50-50. It's not adding more. It's like as soon as I see work life balance in a job description, I exit out. I do not want work life balance at all. So, just tying that into your integration too, I would love to hear that.
So it's a little bit of wordplay, just like you're doing there, right? Like the only reason I dislike the balance themology is or wording is because people automatically in their mind think 50-50, and there's just no magical day things are going to be 50-50.
Right.
So that's the only reason I dislike it. I love the thought of it. It's just that most people don't they think about it wrong. What's more appropriate is counterbalance, right? Because there's going to be seasons like early in like my entrepreneurial career from say 24 to 30, like there was no balance. I was 12 to 15 hours a day building this business and in the financial world and I didn't have kids at that point, so I could, right? Like I was part like I was cognizant of that I wanted kids someday, and so I'm going to work my ass off in that season of life to make sure that I could pull that back again, counterbalance that as soon as kids came into the picture. And my first one did at age 31. So now it's like there's going to be all sorts of these seasons and ebbs and flows that you go through throughout your life where it's just shifting the counterbalance in each of those areas. So, for instance, I'll give a great tool that's just a really great uh, thing for calendars, right? So, have tos versus want tos. We all have have tos in our life, and we all have wants. And what I think that most people do wrong is they put their have tos in their calendar first because they have to get done. And I want you to flip that into putting your want tos on your calendar first. So your want tos may be working out. Your want to may be reading the Bible. Your want to may be being at your kids' sporting events. Your want to might be date night. And so if those are important to you and you're prioritizing, some of that integration, those go in your calendar first. Because what I know about humans is that whatever have tos we get done, we will squeeze them in the time that we have. Like my father always taught me growing up, because he was a great businessman as well, entrepreneur himself. He said, you want something done? Give it to a busy person. And as a young person, you're sitting there going, wait, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I give it to someone that has nothing to do? Because a busy person knows how to prioritize, and they will use whatever time they have and prioritization to get it done. Whereas a person that has nothing to do, a lot of times is a lazy person that's going to take, let's say they, have 12 hours to do it. They're going to wait to the 11th hour to get it done. And so it's counterintuitive, but it works amazingly. So for example, my girls are competitive dancers. I have their dance competitions and schedules in the calendar for 2026 already. I have spring break in the calendar already for 2026. I have a couple other things that father-daughter dance in my calendar already. So those things are my want tos, and so that I don't get booked for a speaking engagement accidentally on something that was important to me to be there at, and or I visit to a client or whatever it may be, and I got to go oops and have that uncomfortable conversation with my wife and my daughters or my son and say, Daddy can't be there. No, all those go on my calendar first, so that oops and that uncomfortable conversation doesn't happen.
And that's an immediate shift in priority, like straight from the gate. Everyone can go tonight and add the want to their calendar, and it'll immediately shift your priority. It's an
Yep, and
excellent
same thing with working out.
yeah, That's an excellent immediate response right there. And it's just that's brilliant to bring that forward and highlight that because it is something you can see while you're still listening here can implement that on your calendar right now and watch the difference happen.
You want a date night with your spouse? Get it on the calendar.
Exactly.
And I would tell the women, you control that. I would tell you right now, like, please, you take control of that for two reasons. One is us men just typically will, skip over, we're the, quote unquote, guy's a provider. We wear that like a badge of honor. So we're going to we'll schedule the have tos over it. But secondly, and this is more flippantly, but we don't typically care where we want to eat, and you typically do. So, so you control and tell where you want to do, where you want to go to dinner, if you want to go to a movie. We're gonna be, yep, whatever you want, honey, let's do it.
The husband can add one want to the calendar.
Yeah, there you go.
No, but it is such a great practice too to also even start for the men to start uncovering that badge right a little bit and look at what you want to do. Hey, did you pass by on your way home that I didn't get to see because I didn't leave for work because I work in the house? Did you find a restaurant? Did you see something new out there? Please add that to the calendar, right? And share your experiences that way because you have touched on that a few times as wearing that provider badge and almost using it as a shield. So, what do you have like we could maybe integrate today on peeling back that shield just a little bit?
Yeah, so I think this comes to each. This is a big one for married couples. So my wife, she owned a business as well early on in our marriage, and then we sold that when baby number two was coming about. And since then has been a homemaker. And she has her master's in nutrition and could do all fantastical stuff. Like she's way smarter than me. That being said, she wears the home, the homemaker badge, and sometimes she'll make comments to me like, sorry the kitchen wasn't cleaned up by the time you got home. Like, by the way, I've never expected that. But like she wears that with pride, right? Like making sure the house is orderly, the kids are taken care of, stuff of that nature. And on the flip side, as the men on the provider side, um, we got to be open and transparent about like where finances are or where the budget is and why you're feeling stressed and having those conversations so that your spouse doesn't spend on something that's outside of your budget or stresses you out more on the finances or whatever. But like if you're not communicating with each other, this is a big topic for me because whether it's in business or in a relationship, there is no such thing as over communication, but there is a lot of under communication. And one of the biggest things that we can do as couples that can help our relationships to stay connected and not grow apart is just freaking communicate. And so that provider badge, like I felt the stress of finances. Sometimes I still do. And, I just got to communicate. I just got to say, hey, honey, I got to take this trip next month. It's going to yield X amount of dollars. And frankly, we need it right now. Just having that simple conversation and therefore then she can understand where I'm coming from. And it's not like she doesn't have that thought in my mind, like, oh, dad's gone again because he doesn't want to be here with the family.
Over communication is key.
Yeah, there is no such thing as over communication. Like, I think it's just communication. Like you cannot, same thing with leaders on teams. Like, so let me give you this. There's this study done in the 70s called parenting effectiveness techniques. And what they found is that you have to tell your child 7 times before they hear it the first time. What they found is that you have to not only repeat yourself often, but just have a simple few sets of rules, right? Simple and just a few. What's fascinating about that is it applies just the same in business. And so if you're a leader and you feel like, oh, I've told someone this already, and they're an adult, not a child, like they should get it. No, they didn't. They didn't hear you the first 6 times. But what's even more fascinating about this is they redid that study about 15 years ago. The number now that you have to repeat yourself with all the distractions is 35 times.
How did we get so distracted?
I'm holding up my cell phone for anyone that isn't watching on video. It's it's true. The invention of these cell phones, as great as they've been for expediency and communication and stuff of that nature, they have formed. I think we are what I would call the distracted age.
And instead of boosting that communication, like you were saying, and just continuously talking to each other, it doesn't really build into that communication, right? It's a distraction from communicating ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, for families, I would create a rule around dinner time or do something that you guys get all your devices away from each other, like put them away, put them in a lockbox for a duration of time, and just talk with each other. Just be like we were when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, like without distraction.
Exactly. I want to share this too, because maybe this is something you guys can implement at your dinner table. We do no phones, absolutely no phones. But we do what's called rose dinner. So the bud
Rose
is,
and thorn.
it's the full thing, and we added something too. Do you want to hear it?
Ah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So the rose bud is the best part of your day. The stem is what you're looking forward to. The thorn is the worst part of your day, and then we added the leaf as to what did you learn today. And
I love it.
we share that every night at dinner just to really build that connection, to hear a little bit more about what's going on in each other's lives, and because things get so busy and we are distracted often, so
How
it
long
really
did it
pulls
take
us all
you
together.
to get your 14 and 12-year-old to not use one word answers?
They don't.
They don't? Oh man. How's your day?
Unless
Fine.
it's a bad day, then it's a little different. But we have been practicing rose dinner since they were maybe kindergarten, preschool age, and we've just built onto it, little here and little there. Like the what did you learn today was a recent improvement to rose dinner, and they just get so excited, almost to the point too where the middle kid will start getting excited about something that happened in her day, and she goes, you know what, I'm gonna save that for rose dinner, and then we talk about it later. So
That's awesome.
it's a really fun thing to do at the dinner table, and that's the first step, right, is getting everyone to that dinner table, and that's not going to happen, like you said, without that communication of I will be at the dinner table, or tonight I won't. Maybe we can video call, and I'll give a leeway of keeping the phone at the table for a little bit.
Yep. That's awesome. Everyone should steal that.
Also, all of your things as well, and everything that you've shared, go steal it.
Yeah.
not
No,
not
that's what it's there for.
copywriter, not copywriting it though. Not that far into stealing it.
It's already copyrighted, so they can use it.
And while we are distracted on our phones, where can we go to connect with you further?
JoshKosnick.com is the website, and you can look at all the things that I do to impact those in my sphere. I put out a ton of free content. I got newsletter that you can subscribe to. My social media is all at Josh Kosnick. A lot of free content that we put out just to spread the impact in the world. And so those would be the places.
Anywhere on Instagram, still just same name, same handle?
At Josh Kosnick, yep. I have a unique name I found. I've not met another Josh Kosnick, so my SEO is really good.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Talk about being one of the only, right?
Yeah, there might be in what used to, so like my parents or my grandparents said I was Bohemian, which came from, or the last name came from Bohemia, which is now Czech Republic. But so there may be some Kosnicks over there. I don't know.
Maybe. We haven't found them yet.
Yeah.
And where can we go to get your book?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any of the major places. But yeah, there's no, I've had people ask, hey, I want to support you the best way possible. Is there one place that makes more money than another?
Right.
And Amazon or Barnes and Noble, either one's great. It doesn't, I just want to make it easy and spread as much impact in the world.
Absolutely. Do you have any other point that you are feeling called to share?
Yeah, I created a free resource that is a part of the book that you can, there's a QR code in the book to do this, but otherwise you can just go straight to the website if you're feeling motivated. It's an assessment, it's utterly free, and it will give, we call it the life quotient assessment. So LQ, kind of like EQ, IQ, PQ. We created an LQ, um, just in that themology, just to see how you're crossing those bridges. And so it'll give you a totality score, but it'll also give you a score per bridge, and you can see where you're strong and see where you're weak and needs to do some work on one of those bridges or multiple of those bridges. And it gives great feedback, and it's meant to be taken more than once, right? So like if you start actually working on that bridge and you go 90 days and you're like, I'm take this assessment again and see if I've improved, and then you can check up on yourself again.
That is genius. I was doing a self care survey for one of my classes in my master's recently. It was my trauma class, and I really needed to do those self care surveys. But it was kind of along the same lines of you don't just take it once. And it is brilliant to set something up that way and to actually go take that assessment, especially with what Josh was saying with those bridges in order and, keep it flowing. So doing it over and over again, using that as that check-in point of, okay, where can my focus go next? Am I in line? Am I following these steps to really lead me into my legacy, or am I falling behind in a certain area? That's brilliant. So I will also share that in the show notes, but is that accessible on your website too?
Yep. You'll see a pop up. And last thing I'll say is if someone's really feeling called to do the work, we just created a field guide that will be on Amazon soon. It's a 90-day workbook, or journal, if you will. And it will help you set goals and intentions around those five bridges. But then I'm a super productive entrepreneur, so I added some other things to it. So there's the five bridges, and then I create like a today list, which is your top five priorities for today. And so this is all on one page, right? So it's a spiral notebook that'll take you through 90 days. But on that day, you get your five bridges, you get your top five today list, and then at the end of it, it asks you for your three wins from the day. Because one of the things that we struggle with, there's a great book called The Gap and the Gain by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, and talked a lot about the social media that we talked about earlier, and how social media can be a distraction and comparison game. And so we're constantly comparing and not thinking about how far we've come. And so living in the gap is what we're doing instead of living in the gain and how far we've come. And one of the exercises from it, which I've done for 2 years now, is keep a journal next to my bed, write down three wins before I go to sleep. And now, like last year, I looked back at it on December 31st, and I had 1,119 wins and so much gratitude. So much gratitude was written in there. And so I just like, this is an amazing exercise. I'm going to continue doing it. So I folded that in to that journal. So not only can people work on their five bridges, they can be productive and get their top five priorities done for the day and then write their three wins.
What a well rounded approach that you have between the book, the journal, the assessment, really checking in with yourself. And another thing, too, is wanting to work with you as a coach. What are the steps that someone could take to do that?
So I always do discovery calls. I learned this in financial advising. Like anytime I met with someone new, I didn't know if I could help them. I didn't know, maybe they were all set. And so it was a discovery meeting to see if we would be a mutual fit to work together. And so similarly, I do that in my coaching now is we do a discovery call to see if it's a mutual fit. I do some one-on-one coaching. I have masterminds. And we just see if it's a fit to work together. So anyone can go to the website and book a discovery call and see where things go. And if I'm not a fit, I have plenty of people in the coaching space that I refer to as well. So I'm very open and transparent about what I'm looking for, and then I hope that they are in return to see if I'm that right fit that can help them in their life.
Right. That's fantastic. I wanted to include that too before we stop today's episode, just really highlighting all of your excellence, and I'm excited to see what all you do next, and just really take this moment to like celebrate you in all of those gains too, because it's so important, and your journey is just phenomenal.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah.
It has
Thank
been
you.
a journey, that's for sure. That's
Thank
where all
you
these
for
gray hairs come in.
yeah. Right. I just got mine covered. No, but thank you
I
for
won't dye the beard. I won't,
no.
my kids even suggested. I'm like, nope, I earned these.
Yes. Yes, it is that's another gain. There you go. I really do appreciate you, Josh, taking your time to hop on the show with me and just share all of your brilliance and your greatness. And I know my listeners are looking forward to connecting with you and just continuing to follow along.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And anyone that, even if it's just a takeaway from today, just DM me or reach out some way just to let me know what you most took away from today.
Yes. Yes. Let Josh know in his DMs your key takeaways because I'm sure there were probably at least five. And I would love to see you guys also share this episode and really get Josh's message out there to anyone else who may need to hear it.